National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang has disclosed that the scope of work for the rehabilitation of the Barnett Street police station is set to be completed on Friday, May 3. An estimate for the retrofitting of the containers housing the Marine Police Post in Montego, Freeport is expected by May 6. The procurement process will follow. Dr. Chang provided the update on Thursday in response to a call from the St. James Police Civic Committee for urgent action to address inhumane conditions at the Barnett Street and Montego Freeport police stations. The president of the Civic Committee, Dr. Lee Bailey, made the call while speaking with Cliff Hughes on Nationwide at 5 on Wednesday evening.
It's uninhabitable. The stations, a lot of them are uninhabitable. For example, plumbing problems, leaking problems, no facility of female officers, and the morale is low in most of those stations by the individuals who have spoken to. And so we're very concerned.
Dr. Bailey says efforts to do minor repairs on the Barnett Street station have so far been hampered by the fact that the building is a National Heritage Site.
We have made several attempts, not only the Civic Committee, but even as Rotary Assistant Governor, we went there to sort some things out, and we were told we could not do anything because the facilities were part of the Jamaica Heritage buildings, and you can't really do any serious repairs to them without a lot of bureaucracy.
You can't do physical repairs?
No.
Why?
It's Jamaican heritage. You can't interfere with any part of the building, as it's told to us, unless you go through a lot of loopholes. You have to go see them before you can do anything to the building. They did some what we call cosmetic repair, which didn't last very long because they themselves did not want to interfere with the actual physical structure of the building and put some temporary floors in and all that, which is not holding up.
Dr. Lee Bailey, president of the St. James Police Civic Committee, back in March 2024, Minister Chang announced plans for extensive renovation and construction of police facilities for the St. James Police Division. Dr. Chang said that among the facilities slated for upgrades were the barracks at Freeport Station and the Barnett Street Police Station. He said the projects were in advanced stage of planning, with the ground slated to be broken by the end of fiscal year 2024-25. Former board chairman of the St. James High School, Dr. Lee Bailey, is seemingly throwing his support behind the embattled principal of the institution, Joseph Williams. Dr. Bailey served on the board of the school for 6 years. His board recruited Joseph Williams as principal in 2006. Dr. Bailey says before Mr. Williams, St. James High was violence-prone and could be classified as a failing institution. He says Mr. Williams was tasked with turning the school around.
At first, I thought he was not capable of going to school, but after talking to him for a while, I realized that we needed somebody like that, with a statue that could continue what we built up at the school. But I tell you, I'm not going to put up with anything twice, bad behavior twice, no way.
But you're also, as a board chairman, governed by the rules.
Yes, but rules are there to guide, It's not a shock.
Dr. Bailey, the issue here, we're getting reports that the principal goes off on a frolic of his own without paying due regard to the education code and the regulations and his board.
I don't know how true that is, but I certainly would like to have a word with him because I know the man very well, and I really have an interest in that school. But if that is so, well, that's part of the problem, a major part of the problem.
Principal Williams has been facing a wave of backlash for his expulsion of 2 female students seen kissing in a short video posted on WhatsApp. The mothers of the 15 and 16-year-old students say Principal Williams informed them that they needed to find another school for their daughters after the video was brought to his attention. But Mr. Williams insists he did not expel the girls. Meanwhile, Dr. Bailey also reacted to the revelation that the current school board went 7 months without meeting.
I am shocked to hear that the board has not been meeting. For a school that has a shift system, I recall about maybe 15 or 1,200 in the morning and 15 or 1,200 I don't remember what the numbers are. But we've had a teacher's problem coming late at the time, and I made sure that didn't happen. And so what happens? That's a school that has to be managed. It must be managed.
And you would be aware of the problems that have surfaced over the few years, relationship between not only the principal and the board, but principal and teachers, that relationship is also broken down?
If that is so, that will stop immediately, in the interest of the students. Not tomorrow, immediately. Something should be done about it.
Dr. Lee Bailey, former board chairman of St. James High School. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says the revenue shortfall in the budget for the 2023-24 fiscal year will not compromise the targets set in the current financial year. The Finance Minister made the comment while speaking on Nationwide this morning on Thursday. Mahira Stewart reports.
Government revenues for the 2023-2024 fiscal year were $97.5 billion. That's 11.8% more than the previous fiscal year. But that outturn was $22 billion less than the budgeted target. Similarly, tax revenues for 2023-2024 were 10.5%, $78 billion more than the previous fiscal year. But it fell $25 billion below the figure forecast in the budget. The finance minister says the main reason for the deficit was a $14 billion shortfall in corporate income tax.
Revenue from corporate income tax for March was down by $14 billion versus the budget. The second is that there were several entities who declared a liability but who did not remit payment in the month of March. So there is an overhang, if I should use that expression. And TAJ will have to inquire, review, and even use enforcement action if necessary to sort of resolve that overhang and see what the issue or problem is. So that is something, we have to learn some more about.
He says the government will be monitoring the outcome of the collection by Tax Administration Jamaica over the next 2 to 3 months. The finance minister says the government has other options to address the shortfall, even as he sought to assure the public that no additional burden will be placed on the backs of taxpayers.
We have options. There are revenue possibilities that have not been factored in and that don't involve any additional burden on taxpayers.
What are some of those, ministers?
Including dividend possibilities. There are expenditure opportunities as well. In any fiscal year, as hard as it may seem, the expenditure that is put forward in the budget is never completely expended. And here, we understand CapEx underperformance. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying just even on the recurrent side, in any particular fiscal year, for a variety of reasons, it's never actually fully, there's always a small amount that goes unexpended. And it's like finding a pin in a haystack to find where those opportunities are. They exist.
Meanwhile, Dr. Clark has sought to assure the public that the shortfall won't derail the government's current fiscal targets.
The main impact of something like this is that, oh my goodness, you'll be behind on your sort of overall fiscal program. We are ahead. Jamaica's ahead of its debt targets. Debt was 72% of GDP at the end of March. We are on track to being in the mid-60s by the end of this fiscal year. And none of these developments pose any sort of threat to those. We are ahead of our 60% to GDP target, and this is the value of being ahead. Right? If we were behind on those targets, or if we were just on track with those targets, having a little setback in revenues in a month of March would have been a bigger deal. But my philosophy, the philosophy of the government, what we have planned, executed, implemented over all these years, is to always have buffers.
Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
And Dr. Clark says it may take a few years for the government to be in a position to adjust the deadline for filing income tax. Opposition leader Mark Golding says it may be more prudent for the tax filing deadline to be shifted to April from March.
It would be a step change. Let's use the word a discontinuous change. There's no other way to do it. You move from March to April. It means that for the first year, you don't have those revenues in March. So it is something that the government can do, intends to do, let me use the word will do, when we no longer have this concern of high debt. Meaning, and we're pretty close, right? By end of this year, we hope to be in the mid-60s. So I would say in the next few years, making that change would be feasible.
Dr. Nigel Clark, Finance Minister. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says several major developments are on the cards as the government moves to transform the town of Port Royal. He was speaking at Wednesday's post-cabinet media briefing.
Prof. Shirley and the team and myself and
Prime Minister himself very involved in enabling that development to happen. So Port Royal is going to be the biggest and most exciting destination in the Caribbean in short order. It's not there yet, but it's coming.
Minister Bartlett was asked about plans to include Port Royal on the itinerary for cruise ships. He says the location of the town serves as an obstacle.
Now, Port Royal is a gem in the making. And part of Port Royal's challenges is not of its own making. It's because of the geophysical positioning of Port Royal on the southern side of Jamaica, where there are no itineraries, so to speak, for cruise at the moment. So we have to make Port Royal into a desired destination with distinct arrangements with boutique ships for direct entry into Port Royal.
Edmund Bartlett, Minister of Tourism. Opposition spokesman on energy Philip Paulwell says the government's poor management of energy has retarded the country's growth prospects. Siobhan Campbell tells us more.
The opposition spokesman on energy says the high cost of energy is directly linked to the failure to attain meaningful growth in the economy. According to Philip Paulwell, the GLP government has failed to build on the gains made during the previous PNP administration.
Our economy has not grown appreciably over many years. This lack of growth or slow growth has been linked to the poor performance of our energy sector over some decades. Energy is so crucial to all aspects of our lives, and it affects in a profound way the high cost of production and the resulting lack of growth. After some glowing and significant achievements in energy between 2012 and 2016, we are now witnessing reversals of that trend.
Mr. Paulwell, who was making his contribution to the sectoral debates on Tuesday, says the former administration had set an ambitious target of 15 US cents per kilowatt hour. He says the current government has reversed progress on this front.
Today, this government has no notion of a benchmark price that it wants to attain. Mr. Speaker, I don't even believe that this government is aware of the price of electric energy at this time, because if they did, then there would be a greater sense of urgency to correct the situation. When we left government in 2016, the price per kilowatt hour of electricity came from 42 US cents to 23 US cents per kilowatt hour. Today, that price has escalated to about 40 cents, back to where we started.
The energy spokesman says this poor outturn is typical of the current administration's unfocused and poor prioritization of such a critical sector.
No wonder growth in the economy continues to elude us, and our people continue to suffer. Mr. Speaker, there are clear reasons why we are not achieving any success in this important and critical area of energy. The Ministry of Energy has been completely unstable and unfocused, and nothing much has been achieved or attempted since 2016. This lack of a sense of urgency has been typical of the government's approach to energy, and it has been to the disadvantage of our society.
Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
The Kingston West Police say 3 violence producers in the area have been charged with murder and shooting with intent over the past month. They are 26-year-old Javon Hall, 20-year-old Stephen Daniel Williams, and 28-year-old Frederick Mattis, all from Kingston. Dana Davey reports.
Javon Hall is charged with the April 2020 murders of 2 male students and the shooting of 5 other students, including a 6-year-old, on Clarence Road in Kingston. According to the police, Hall, who has been on the JCF's wanted list since the incident, was arrested after being captured in a police operation in April. He is also charged with illegal possession of a firearm, 5 counts of shooting with intent, and illegal possession of ammunition. Meanwhile, another violence producer, Stephen Williams, was charged with the murder of 50-year-old businessman Glenn Simpson. Simpson was shot and killed at his business place in Denhamtown, Kingston, in January of this year. It's reported that Williams, along with other men, entered the establishment pretending to be customers before opening fire. In addition to murder, Williams is charged with possession of a prohibited weapon and unauthorized possession of ammunition. The third violence producer listed by the Kingston West Police is Frederick Mattis. He is charged with the February 2023 murder of Kirk Facey, while at his cook shop in Denham Town. Mattis is also charged with possession of a prohibited weapon and unauthorized possession of ammunition. The police say the three men will appear before the gun court. They noted that efforts will continue to apprehend persons wanted for serious crimes in the Kingston West Division. Dana Davey for Nationwide News.
In regional and international news now, regional news, St. Vincent and the Grenadines has joined 10 other Caribbean countries in achieving UNAIDS certification for the dual elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis. It's also the sixth member of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, to do so. The certification will be up for revalidation in the next 4 years. According to UNAIDS, the achievement signals to the world that ending pediatric HIV and mother-to-child transmission of syphilis is achievable. It says that it's remarkable that 11 of the 20 countries which have been certified are from the Caribbean. UNAIDS says the achievement is testament to the resilience and dedication of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and other Caribbean countries in ensuring health systems with strong maternal, neonatal, and child health programs that integrate HIV and syphilis interventions into child health care. In international news now, Hamas says it's sending a delegation to Egypt for further ceasefire talks. It's a new sign of progress in attempts by international mediators to hammer out an agreement between Israel and the militant group to end the war in Gaza. After months of stop-and-start negotiations, the ceasefire efforts appear to have reached a critical stage, with Egyptian and American mediators reporting signs of compromise in recent days. But chances for the deal remain entangled with the key question of whether Israel will accept an end to the war without reaching its stated goal of destroying Hamas. The stakes in the negotiations were made clear in a new UN report published on Thursday. The report says if the Israel-Hamas war stops today, it will take until 2040 to rebuild all homes that have been destroyed by nearly 7 months of Israeli bombardment and ground offensives in Gaza.